Coming up, workers picket against the Iowa Board of Regents.
Iowa students are planning ahead for the future.
Iowa men's wrestling legend Spencer Lee back on the mat.
Spring is around the corner. I'll have full forecasting weather.
All that and more.
Coming up right now on DITV.
Good morning from Iowa City. It is Friday, February 28th. I'm Avery Arns.
And I'm Ryan Lynch.
And the third member of our team, Mark Fortunato, is live outside to tell us today's weather story.
And Mark, it's been gorgeous out today, even this early in the morning, but I'm just hoping that the wind isn't going to be too bad today.
That's right, Ryan. I am standing here at the Boyd Law Building, where it feels like springtime might finally be arriving. Looking out at the Pentacrest, today's temperatures will continue to rise into the 50s with a chance of even making it into the 60s. But unfortunately, the warm won't last too long, as the temperature tonight will lower down into the 20s. Saturday, we're bringing the cold back with a high in the mid-30s, so we can't put away those winter coats just yet. Thankfully, we won't be going back to the negative degrees anytime soon. Back to you in the studio.
For our top story, contract negotiations between the Iowa Board of Regents and the University of Iowa healthcare workers sparked action by healthcare workers. DITV's news director Johnny Volman has what these healthcare workers are fighting for.
Patient safety, employee safety.
Outside the University of Iowa's hospitals and clinics, members of the UIHC and their union, Service Employees International Union, picketed against the hospital. A lightning rod for the cause is the Board of Regents proposed 3% increase in pay for workers, despite higher numbers being brought by the union.
Three things: we need workers, and we need good workers to stay. You can't train people every 6 months and then have them leave.
While the wages are a core piece of these negotiations, healthcare professionals and supporters of the cause are pushing for safer working conditions and flexible time off for workers.
The need to increase their safety in their workplace is outrageous how often any of them are assaulted and how little we do as an institution about it.
Iowa ranks 48th out of 50th for average pay to nurses in the country. While higher ranking physicians are paid and treated better, nurses and other workers in the hospitals believe that their demands would help improve the overall being of the hospital.
If they, treated the permanent staff better and have better wages and better working conditions, this would be an investment for UIHC.
The union will continue to fight until March 15th. That's when the two sides have to come to an agreement on a contract, as 3% proposed by the Board of Regents will continue to be fought by the union. From the University of Iowa, Johnny Voltman, DITV.
Iowa Senate bills continue to advance, bringing questions to the communities being impacted.
DITV's Liz Schultz is in the newsroom to tell us about the action in the Iowa State Legislature.
Thanks, Ryan. The Iowa legislature advanced a bill Monday ending civil rights protections for transgender Iowans. Senate File 418 will require birth certificates to list a person's assigned sex at birth. It also bans gender identity and sexual orientation education in K-6 schools. The bill is part of further efforts by the Iowa Republicans' majority goal to limit transgender rights. While some Iowans support this bill, others argue that it is harmful and will lead to more discrimination. Iowa lawmakers advanced multiple bills to take effect statewide. A House bill advanced to ban DEI offices in Iowa private universities and community colleges. The legislation follows efforts to remove diversity-required courses at Iowa public universities. Another House bill was advanced to limit which foods can be eligible for food stamps. The Iowa Department of Health and Human Services would provide $1 million in funds to assist in regulating which foods can qualify to be sold at food stamp services and allow efforts to promote healthier options to the public. Iowa Brenna Bird, attorney, has announced lawsuits against Bitcoin Depot and CoinFlip. The two companies are Iowa's largest cryptocurrency ATM operators. Bird is claiming that they have facilitated scam transactions and allowed Iowans to transfer millions of dollars to scammers through their kiosks. Both companies have disagreed with Bird's claims and responded by emphasizing their safety procedures. We'll keep an eye on what's going on in Des Moines, but for now, I'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
The Iowa Board of Regents approved to terminate 2 programs within the University College of Liberal Arts and Sciences.
That's why we have DITV's Cole Krieger live outside the Boyd Law Building.
That's right, guys. I'm outside the Boyd Law Building as the Iowa Board of Regents at their meeting yesterday approved the university's request to terminate the Bachelor of Arts in Social Justice and American Studies. The university's request to get rid of the Bachelor of Arts in Social Justice was due to the loss of 2 faculty members back in 2022. For the Bachelor of Arts in American Studies, the university cited low enrollment with just 6 students enrolling in the fall of 2024. Current students who are pursuing a Bachelor in American Studies will continue to pursue their BA until they graduate, but for now, I'll send it back to you guys back in the studio.
Yesterday, students at the University of Iowa had a chance to get a jump start on their careers. DITV's Isabel Thier went to check out this networking event.
The University of Iowa held its career fair on Thursday with over 100 employers and over 1,000 students registered to attend. Students of all majors came by to check things out. Behind me, students are in the IMU main lounge and ballroom upstairs talking with potential employers about summer internship and job availabilities. Students, whether looking for a job, internship, or just a networking opportunity, stop by to talk with professionals and specialists within their industry.
It is a great way to kind of practice building connections. It's a great way to practice talking about yourself and kind of articulating what you can bring to an organization.
The Pomerantz Career Center offered various prep events and details to prepare students for the career fair.
You know, I've always enjoyed coming to the University of Iowa. I think the students are just very well prepared here at the fair with resumes and dressed to impress and just have good dialogue.
Many students have utilized this to either find themselves a job or make a connection to lead them to a position.
I took professional selling with Charles Keene, and Schneider came to that, and then I saw them at the career for the next day, and I did end up getting an internship with them.
Later on in the semester, Iowa will hold major specific career fairs such as engineering, nursing, and education. With over 135 employers, students are bound to find a place for them. From the Iowa Memorial Union, Isabel Thier, DITV.
And coming up later, a national day for a breakfast staple.
Along with a look at next week's forecast and Hawkeye sports.
All that and more right after the break.
In Iowa City, history is being made every day. DITV is capturing it all. Politics, sports, and art. Local, state, and nationwide. In front of the camera, behind the scenes, DITV.
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 DITV Sports.
DITV.
DITV
is capturing history.
Welcome back and thank you for tuning in on thedailyiowan.com or listening on KRUI 89.7 FM.
Now let's go back out to Mark, who's got a look at the week ahead.
Thanks, guys. Next week is going to be a roller coaster of different weather patterns, from warm days to snow showers. Sunday won't be too exciting, being mostly sunny in the high 40s for most of the day, but Monday won't be much different either, with a high in the 50s along with a few more rain showers. Tuesday will be nothing but rain throughout the day as temperatures continue to be in the near 50s. Wednesday, however, is expected to bring snow showers and cold rain during the morning, with a high barely in the 40s. But Thursday will bring back the sun with its temperature nearing the 50s, and it will finally start to feel like spring is here. Your outfits might be a little mixed throughout the week to adjust to the chaotic weather, but at least it won't be freezing. So anyway, back to you guys in the studio.
Well, Ryan, after the bitter cold last week, I, for one, am excited to see some spring temperatures finally appearing.
Yeah, it's going to be nice with it warming up. I mean, it is still winter, but getting these warmer temperatures is it's a great change of pace.
And let's toss it over to DITV Sports with Elise Gann.
Yeah, guys, there's been a lot going on in Hawkeye sports, starting with the Iowa women's basketball team who conquered Michigan Wednesday night. After a tough loss to UCLA last Sunday, the Hawkeyes bounced back against the Wolverines with a 79-66 victory led by seniors Sydney Fulter and Lucy Olson. Fulter set a new career high with 24 points and 11 rebounds, recording her 6th double-double of the season, while Olson chalked up 20 points and 5 rebounds, earning her way to 500 career boards. The Hawks were relentless, shooting 55% from behind the arc and forcing 16 turnovers, guiding them to their 19th win of the season. Now seeking their 20th win of the year, the Hawkeyes will return to Iowa City for their last home game of the regular season against the Wisconsin Badgers this Sunday, where the Hawks will celebrate their senior night in blackout fashion. And on the road, the Iowa men's basketball team will look to follow in the women's footsteps this Friday as they take on Northwestern. In their first matchup against the Wildcats this season, the Hawkeyes won by the skin of their teeth off a game-winning buzzer beater by Josh Dix. After their win against the Washington Huskies last week, the Hawks' chance of playing in the Big Ten tournament remain alive, but if they want to keep those chances up, they'll need to double down against the Cats. The Hawks look to improve their record to 16-13 and stay above Northwestern in the Big Ten standings. Flow Sports hosted a wrestling event on Wednesday night that featured one of Iowa's best and a world champion facing off. DITV's Colin Carruthers brings us the match from Coralville.
Extreme Arena would gather wrestling fans from across the state of Iowa and across the country for Flow Wrestling Night in America, but also, of course, for the main events, Spencer Lee versus Musanosuke Ono.
After a buildup of 12 bouts, it was finally time for the main card, the king of Iowa men's wrestling, to step up to the mat.
This would be the first matchup between Lee and his Japanese world champion opponent. The score would stay empty until Ono striked first with a singular push-out point.
I was on the edge of the mat, he wasn't. You should get your butt to the center, and you should wrestle hard, and you should not be in that position.
Things would stay pretty calm until the final toll, when Ono walked away with a 3-2 victory.
And I apologize for being so dang boring. I also apologize for, losing for the state of Iowa, so apologize for that.
After the match's conclusion, the two would walk away with plenty of respect for one another.
I think that he's a great guy, and I'm glad he came out to wrestle, and I'm glad it worked out.
He's good back, I can't snap down.
After the conclusion of Flow Wrestling Night in America, there is a consensus amongst all the wrestlers that events like this in the future will continue to help grow the sport of wrestling. Spencer Lee also shared with us that he wouldn't be shocked to see him and his opponent face off again in the future. From Extreme Arena, Colin Carruthers, DITV Sports.
The Iowa soccer team has received good news ahead of the 2025 season. Head coach Dave Delaney received a contract extension on Thursday that ties him to the program through the 2029 season. The Hawkeyes are coming off their best season in program history with 15 wins and an appearance in the round of 16 in the NCAA tournament. They'll begin the spring season on March 8th. Action is back in full swing on the diamond this weekend with Hawkeye baseball and softball. We have DITV's Joel Keller live from Dwayne Banks Field to update us on the middle of one series with baseball and a tournament for softball.
Yeah, I'm here at the home of the Hawkeye baseball where the sun is shining, the birds are chirping. It's starting to feel like baseball season, but we'll wait for the home season to start until next week. First, baseball is a trip to Texas where they take on the Washington State Cougars for a 4-game series. Their first game of the series was yesterday where they lost 7-12, and they look to bounce back today with a game at 2 p.m. and Cade Obermuller on the mound. They will play the Cougars again on Saturday and Sunday, hoping to finish the series up with a W. Iowa softball also has a lot of action going on down south. We're at the Woo Pig Classic of 2025 down in Arkansas. They got 2 games against Arkansas, 2 games against Missouri State, and a game against Big Ten Illinois. So a lot of action for both of these teams down south before the home season gets started, and they're going to try and come back to Iowa City with a couple of W's. Back to you, Elise.
Thanks, Joel. Now taking things back inside, the Jimhawks will host and compete in the Big Four meet this Sunday. The 3 and 7 Hawkeyes will have tough competition in 7th-ranked Michigan State, 25th-ranked Penn State, and Washington new head coach Jen Llewellyn's former team. The Jimhawks are 3-3 in conference play and are 8th in the Big Ten standings with 1 month to go until the Big Ten championship. That's all I have in Hawkeye sports. Now back to you guys.
Now, Avery, don't flip out because I'm going to be flipping a lot of flapjacks today.
Why is that, Ryan?
It's National Pancake Day. So I'm going to be making myself some buttery stacks of goodness. Ever since the day was created by IHOP in 2006, the restaurant has raised over $24 million to support charities in their local communities.
And thank you for joining us online or listening on KRUI 89.7 FM.
We are here live from Iowa City every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8:30 a.m. and online anytime at dailyiowan.com. For Joel Keller and Cole Krieger, I'm Ryan Lynch.
And for Liz Schultz, Mark Fortunato, and Elise Gann, I'm Avery Arndt. We'll see you again Monday morning right here on DITV.
Coming up, a recap with some fresh faces on Directors Festival.
And later, all the latest updates for the Oscars this Sunday. And welcome back to another episode of Word on the Street.
We are here weekly now to give you your national and local entertainment arts updates.
Hannah and I have some special updates for you today, including a rundown of Oscar nominations and predicted winners. So sit back,
relax,
and
here's the Word on the Street.
There's been a lot happening with the arts scene around in Iowa City lately with the Free Week Arts and Entertainment Festival, performances, and concerts.
Yeah, that's right. We've been keeping very busy here. And last weekend, I was able to see the theater department's 10-minute play festival.
That's awesome. And tell me a little bit about that, Hannah. Just give me a rundown.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, 10-minute play they put on every year, and it's a compilation of about maybe 5 or 6 different 10-minute plays, depending on how many they get. And it's put on by the undergrad playwrights that either submit these for class or write them on their own. Literally only 10 minutes or a little bit over, a little bit under. And yeah, it's just for the undergrads to be able to get their work on stage. It's super low commitment, and it's all pretty much undergrad actors in it. And yeah, they only rehearse about 4 hours a week, and they have about a month to put it on. So it's pretty cool.
Wow, that's awesome. Was there like a specific genre that they fit under, or can it just kind of have open range?
Yeah, so most of them seem to be more comedic aspect, or just like comedy, like undertones with a more like serious like tone above. So there was like some dark comedies too. There's one about a funeral who was written by MK Schultz, who we interviewed here earlier in the year. And their show, you know, was a little bit different than MK. I talked to MK about this, about their typical style, but it still had MK's, you know, like awkward pauses, awkward phrasing, and like the feeling of like, ooh, in your seat, about like, oh, that's awkward, I wouldn't have said that, or like, I've been there, done that. But yeah, each cast was only about 2 to 4 people, and they all kind of rehearsed together, but each one was still a separate show. Again, more comedic, but there was also one that was really tense. It was a little bit more, I want to say like artistic and abstract than some of the other ones, where it was 2 women sitting at a table together, but I think they were really one person, and one was like basically the consciousness reflective of the person's inner thoughts. And it was about like her husband and how she felt about it. And in the end, she walks away with a knife, and we hear her husband say, "I'm coming home," or "I'm home, honey," something like that. And you know what's about to happen, but we don't see it. We're actually gonna get up out of our seats and let some new people sit down for a recap of Directors Fest.
That's right, and we can't wait to hear more from them about that.
Thanks, Grace and Hannah. We are so excited to join you guys today.
The Iowa Directors Festival wrapped up on February 15th after 2 back-to-back weekends of student-directed and casted shows.
Yeah, Liz, I was lucky enough to be at 2 of the shows on Friday, February 14th, which was actually Valentine's Day, and let's just say I loved both of the shows.
I second that, Julia. I really wish I was able to attend all of the shows, but I had the opportunity of attending the closing shows on Saturday, Tom and Eliza, and To Tell Sad Stories of the Death of Queens. I have a lot of thoughts to share about both of them.
Absolutely, me too. And let's start with the setup of the shows. I really liked the way the theaters were set up. It was a black box experience, so there were audiences on 3 sides of the stage, and there was even a turntable in the middle of the stage, which was super cool. They used it in some parts, and some parts the stage was still, but it was all spinning, and I thought it was really exciting, and it gave the audience perspectives. And I also thought it was cool that if you had got to see the same show multiple times, you'd get a new experience because of that rotating stage. And Friday, and I believe Saturday as well, had 2 shows with an intermission. My first show, which was called Far Away, had about an hour long, and then there was a quick 10-minute intermission, and then the second show was about 45 minutes. I really liked that setup. At first, I had a little bit of whiplash, just changing to a next story really quick. I'm used to the same storyline all the way through, but I did really enjoy getting a fresh start, and it kept my attention because I had to restart with a new story. What about you?
That's super awesome. I totally agree with what you said. When I first got on stage, I noticed that there was the spinning set, and that really stood out to me personally. For both of my shows, for the first one, there weren't a whole lot of props. It was just the two actors, Tom and Eliza. And I just really thought that was super interesting because they played off of each other. But there wasn't a whole lot of visual variety, but I kind of feel like their actions and words spoke for themselves. So I thought that was really cool. And then the second show, of course, there was a lot of variety, lots of props, lots of color, which I thought that was super interesting. But I definitely want to hear more about your shows.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, the first show that I went to was called Far Away. It was written by Carol Churchill, and it was directed by University of Iowa MFA student Meredith G. Helly. And it was written in what the actors told me was code. It was honestly a very difficult show to understand. I came away after that first act and was a little bit confused, but I definitely got these themes and this message of like power struggles, especially between the main character Joan and her aunt in the first scene, Joan and Todd, who was a sort of love interest, and also there was this idea of nature throughout the whole show. But it was very confusing at first. I even had a guy come up to me after the show and he asked me, "Did you understand anything that was happening?" And I said, "You know what, not everything, but the acting was incredible and that definitely came through. And there were definitely important themes about climate change that were coming through. And I thought that the actors did a really good job of using that code, as they referred to it, to deliver a message about taking care of the environment, taking care of each other, and not letting those power struggles overwhelm us, which I thought was really important. And then the next show that I saw was called Dutchman, and it was written by Leroy Jones and Emery Baccara, and it was directed by University of Iowa MFA student Josh Turner. This show was a lot different, and it had very clear messages about racism, sexual violence, and even murder. And the show was set in the 60s on a subway train, and it follows an interaction between a white woman named Lula and a black man named Clay, who she tries to seduce. I won't lie, I left this show feeling almost uncomfortable, seeing these themes laid out so plainly. And the actors even broke the fourth wall at certain points and like included the audience, which is really powerful, but almost uncomfortable. You know, they're looking at you and they're saying, what are you going to do about this thing that we've just presented you with, which is really, really powerful. And I got to talk to the actors about playing these characters that, especially Lula, she doesn't agree with her character, but as an actor, you have to dive into this role and you have to find almost similarities or things that make sense, and you have to relate to her in a way, even if she's not a great person. And it ends on another powerful note where after the black man has killed Clay, you see another black man enter the subway and you see her, clearly her intent is to continue the cycle. And I think that's, again, important. The cycle is continuing even today, even though this was written and performed in the 60s. I really enjoy both shows clearly, and I'm hoping that I can go again next year. And they are over, but there's more to come. And what about your shows? How was Saturday?
That's really awesome. I know I'm really excited, and I really wish that I would have been able to see the shows that you saw, kind of talking about the climate change and the overall messages. I had a lot of similar experience that you did. I was really surprised by a lot of my shows, kind of different aspects of those. On Saturday, the two shows, they were the closers, so that was kind of like the big moment where they wanted audience members to walk away feeling, wow. The first one, Tom and Eliza, I didn't really know what to expect from that. Obviously, there were the two characters, and it kind of started out with like this love story, you know. It's kind of like mom and dad sharing their feelings for each other. But the big thing that stood out for me, there was a lot of vulgar language, descriptive imagery, and that was kind of, I was a little bit confused on what that had to do with the overall message. There was a lot of talk about, there was sexual content in it. There was also a lot of conflict throughout the story. Tom and Eliza, they had children, and then their children end up they set things things on fire. And then the mom and the dad, Tom and Eliza, they end up there was this hatred in between them for a lot of different parts of the story that was kind of like the rising action. So it was a little bit confusing, but for the most part, I feel like kind of the main takeaway was that, it's life. Life was kind of the main takeaway of that, I feel like. There was just a lot of powerful language. Love was kind of what I got out of that. But sneaking over to another aspect of the second show, I was really impressed by that one as well. And Tell Sad Stories of the Death of Queens, that was directed by MFA student Michael Flores. He did a fantastic job. I actually got the chance to interview him, just as you said with your director. And he kind of wanted the audience, with everything that's going on now, he wanted them to just take away, with everything going on in the world, that it's okay to be yourself, was kind of what that message was about. It was about this drag queen named Candy, who has faced a lot of challenges in her life, and she runs into this man who she basically falls in love with. And that, I think, was really powerful, because if you didn't understand the story, it kind of may have seemed like Candy was trying to seduce the man, which she was. But in the end, there were a lot of surprising parts in this show. There was a fight scene, which that I was not expecting at all. That was kind of like the conflict of the story. And I think that what Michael, the director, mentioned, he said that he wanted to choose this just because everything, like I said, going on in present day, he wanted them to just feel like they can be themselves. Just kind of get that overall powerful message. But I also got the chance to talk to some of the actors behind the scenes, so that was awesome. I was in the dressing room for a while they were doing their makeup, so that was really fun to watch. There was a lot of colors, and those were a lot of things that stood out to me. When I see a show, I kind of think about like theatricality, colors, how are they presenting themselves, and I think that the director did a fantastic job of just kind of the scene settings, and all of that were just fantastic. I would definitely go back, and gosh, I wish I could have seen all of them. But from, I think, kind of what both of us have been talking about, there are a lot of powerful messages that the audience can get out of these. And I was just super, extremely impressed by them. So
yeah, I was too. And I think the important thing that I'm realizing is that people may take away different things from both of these shows, but all of the messages are important. And even doing some research outside of that, if that's part of your journey, then that's a beautiful thing as well. And I don't know about you, but I definitely had a great experience watching these shows, but even more so seeing everyone's reaction, seeing the way people came away from it, and honestly looking inwards and being like, what do I feel after this? What am I gonna go home and think about? So that was really cool.
I completely agree. Yeah, I just, like I said, I didn't know what to expect originally. I kind of think that's really important when it comes to shows specifically. If you read a description, you might have a preconceived notion about a certain topic, and that's something that I wanted to kind of avoid. I knew the main subject of what I was going to be seeing, but I definitely didn't expect to hear the things that I heard, and especially the production. I was super overall impressed with that. Yeah, I had a great weekend.
To watch the full episode, check out the Daily Iowan website and YouTube.